Which of the following best represents the domain of the graph shown above? I'm going to write down Dr. XYID. And since the letter D starts for domain, that's what I'm going to look at when I write down Dr. XYID. The domain goes with the X values, which are also your independent values. So let's look at how far across this graph travels throughout the x-axis. It looks like it starts at -2 on the left and ends at +1 on the right. And they're both closed circles. Closed circles mean that you are going to use the less than or equal sign for the value that x is in between. And so if you go through and just mark off the answer choices that do not have the equal sign with it, you will be able to see which one is your answer. And since letter C is the only one that has both closed circles, or in this case, both less than or equal values, that's going to be our answer. F of x is defined as f of x, and they give you this equation. We can rewrite f of x as y equals, which of the following correctly shows the value of f of -1/7, or -1/7? That is just a fancy way of just telling you that x equals -1/7 in this problem. They want you to evaluate what would be the answer if we plug -1/7 into the equation. Well, the cool thing about using the calculator is we can take -1/7 and we can store that into the letter x in our calculator. Every time we hit the letter x, after we store that, it will substitute for us -1/7. After that's done, simply just type in the equation. The calculator will do the math for us. So watch. We're just going to type this in. We're going to hit enter. You get a nasty looking decimal, that's okay. We're going to do math frac enter. And voila, you get your answer. If the shape's perimeter below is 61, what does x equal? Well, how do you find the perimeter of any shape? That's easy. Simply just add up all the sides, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take x plus 4. That's the side I'm going to start with. We're going to add that to the next side, 2x plus 1. And then we'll add that to the next side, which is 2x. And we're going to add that to 2x plus 7. We're going to set all of that equal to 61. So let's start combining like terms. Let's put all of our x's together. Let's put all of our numbers together. 1x plus 2x plus 2x plus 2x. 7x. Then we'll combine our numbers up. 4 plus 1 is 5. Plus 7 is going to give us +12. So we're going to write down plus 12. Set that equal to 61. We're down to a two-step equation. Move the 12. Divide by 7. So we're going to do opposites. The opposite of +12 is -12. Bring down your 7x. 7x equals 49. Our last step is to divide by 7. So when we divide by 7 on both sides, how many times does 7 go into 49? So we know that x equals 7. A student bought tickets to a play online. The cost, C, in dollars of T tickets can be found using the function below. If the student spent a total of $284 on tickets, how many tickets did he buy? We are going to rewrite that equation in y equals. So instead of using the letter C, we're going to use the letter y. Instead of using the letter T, we're going to use the letter X. And the reason why we're going to do this is because if you can rewrite your equation of y equals, we can use the calculator to help find the missing variable we're looking for. In this case, they tell you that 284 is the cost. That's our y value. So the question is asking how many tickets, or what is the x value? So if you made an xy table, when y is 284, the question is asking what value of x do we need in order to make this true? Well, the cool thing about using the calculator again is once it's in y equals, we can actually put this in the y equals part of the calculator, and then we're going to go to the table and see if we can find the missing part. So let's plug in what we've highlighted there in y equals. So we'll just type this in our calculator. We're going to go to the table. We're going to scroll down. where y is 284. Let's see if we can find the missing value of x. And there it is. If you buy 9 tickets, multiply it times 30.75, and add 725 to it, guess what, peoples? You get $284. Yeah, buddy, that's easy. Just going to put our answer into the table. Since it's a whole number, I'm just going to write down 9, bubble in 9. It's positive. You can just leave it just like that. Now, another way of solving this would be to just solve the equation like you would doing opposite operations for the value of x. Write down the equation. We're going to plug in 284 for y. We're just going to do everything backwards or opposite to get x by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the positive $7.25 positive on the right. So when we move it over to the left, it's going to be negative or minus. So take 284 minus 7.25. We'll use the calculator to evaluate that. And here we go. We get $276.75 or $276.75. And our last step is to divide that by 30.75. And guess what? You get 9. Which answer choice has the data closest to a trend line? So we're talking about an R value given a scatter plot. This answer can be positive or negative. A positive 1 R value means it is a perfect positive line. And if you have a negative R value of -1, that is a perfect negative line. Which answer choice is closest to either +1 or -1? Your answer can be either one. And if you look at these two answers here, you will notice that -0.98 is actually closer to -1 than 0.93 is to +1. Solve the following inequality. First thing that we need to do is we need to distribute -4 times x is -4x. -4 times +5 is -20. Bring down the +6. We are going to include our less than or equal sign and -10. Split it up and solve it like you would an equation. So we're going to combine like terms, bring down what we have, bring down our sign, bring down -10, start doing opposites. -14 on the left is going to become +14 on the right. So that will give us +4 on the right, -4x on the left. But what happens when you divide by a negative number when you solve an inequality? Well, in this case, we're dividing by -4. So when we divide by -4, something's going to happen to the sign. The sign is going to flip. It is going to change direction. It is going to become greater than or equal. 4 divided by -4, well, that's simply -1. Match up your answer. Be careful when you divide by a negative number at the end. Be sure to flip the sign. Yeehaw! The rate of change given the table below. Rate of change. Rate of change is also called slope. Slope is also called rate of change. That's what they like to do. They like to give you this vocabulary. So they're talking about the m value of y equals mx plus b. Now, if we're going to use the calculator, which we are, the calculator does not use the letter m, it uses the letter a. And so this is really simple. We're going to use StatEdit to calculate the slope of this particular line or the data that is given to us in the table. So you go to StatEdit. We're simply going to type in our x values under L1. Our y values go under L2. Then we are going to hit Stat. Go over to Calc. Go down to number 4, y equals ax plus b. We're going to hit Calculate. And the calculator tells us that the slope is 1.3 repeating. Now again, they do not use the letter M. The calculator uses the letter A, and I say they. We'll just say the calculator people. So go through, find the one that's positive 1.3 repeating. It's 4/3. Milkshakes cost $1.79 each, and tater tots cost $2.19 each. The number of milkshakes purchased is represented by the variable M. M for milkshakes, imagine that. So we're just going to take the cost of each milkshake, $1.79 times M. We're going to add that to the cost of the tater tots. They're $2.19 each, so $2.19 times T. I like to look at this word at least. At least, think about this. You must be at least this tall to ride a ride. That means you must be greater than or equal to, and in this case, they want to spend at least greater than or equal to 15. Simply just match the equation up. At least, you must be at least this tall, greater than or equal to. Below shows the relationship between the distance in kilometers K a UPS truck traveled and the number of minutes M each delivery took. So look at the data on the left. I like to look at that as my X values. As the X values are increasing, they are increasing. It goes from 4 to 7 to 11. What is happening to the total cost? What's happening to the Y values? Well, if you look here, as the X values are increasing, Y is also increasing. So that is telling us that this is a positive trend. But what would a negative trend look like? So we know a positive trend is when one goes up, the other goes up. A negative trend is when X goes up, Y goes down. Or maybe it's when X goes down, Y goes up. But it's when they're not the same. And if you have a no trend, that means the data is all over the place. You can't tell as one goes up, the other goes up or down. It's just everywhere. The plot graph above shows the population of a small city from 1998 to 2048. Based on this graph, which of the following best predicts the population of the city in 2058? That's somewhere between 2050 and 2060. So with a scatter plot, draw you a trend line. That's a straight line through the center of the points. Do not connect those dots. And make an estimate. It's going to be 120 something. And our answer is 123,000 is our best estimate. Which of the following could not be represented by a linear function? Not. A linear function has a constant rate of change. That means as one thing happens, it's going up each time the same amount. A man pays $10 per haircut every week. So one haircut is $10, two haircuts is $20, three haircuts is $30. That's linear. That has a constant rate of 10 every time. That is not our answer. The question's asking which one cannot be the answer. A bathtub drains at a rate of 1 gallon per minute. So that means that 1 gallon is gone in 1 minute, 2 gallons is gone in 2 minutes, 3 gallons is gone in 3 minutes. And of course, I should have written minutes on the left and gallons on the right, but that's okay. You can see that they both are going up the same amount each time. As one goes up, the other goes up the same amount. A maid charges $75 per house she cleans. So one house is $75. So can you imagine what two houses would be? Well, you just double it, right? Two houses would be $150. It's going up the same amount. As the houses go up by 1, the price that she charges is going up by 75. So that is also a constant rate. So our answer is C. That is not represented as a linear function. The following equations best describes the line through the points listed in the table below. Your answer choices need to be put in y equals mx plus b. I'm going to start with the letter B because that's our answer. We are going to move x to the other side. It's positive on the left, which means it's going to be negative on the right. Bring down your positive 6. And then our last step in this process is to divide by the number in front of y. In this case, it's 2. And then we're going to do some housekeeping here. Negative 1 over 2 is negative half. 6 over 2 is 3. This y equals 1/2, negative 1/2 x plus 3. Let's type this in the calculator here. And we are going to confirm that whether or not this equation matches up to the data in the table. So let's find negative 3 for x. Negative 3 for x gives me a value of y, which is 9 over 2. Well, 9 over 2 is simply 4.5. The calculator is giving me fractional values for y. You just need to convert those into decimals, and you'll see that our data is going to match up here. So when x is 3, y is 3 over 2, which is 1.5. When x is 5, y is 0.5. So that is our answer, B. Put them in y equals, people. The equation below can be used to determine T, the total cost in dollars to repair a television set at a shop, based upon H, the number of hours it takes. What's the y-intercept represent? What's the letter B? Be careful. The equation they give us, they've actually swapped mx plus b. They did b plus mx, so we're going to rewrite that. So what does 75 represent? What does 75 represent? Does it represent the total cost? No. T represents the total cost, not 75. 75 is part of the total cost. What about the hourly rate? No, that's $25 an hour. That's what they're charging you to repair a television at this shop. Look at letter C, the number of hours it takes. doesn't take 75 hours. Ours is represented by H, and you don't know how many hours it's going to take. That's why they use the letter H. So look at the last one, the initial charge. That's what it's going to cost you for this particular person to just look at your TV. It's the flat fee. It's where your bill is going to start. It's going to start at 75 and go up from there. And appliance repairman charges for each job is represented by the function that give you this equation, where H represents the hours he spent on the job, T represents the total cost. So in this case, he's charging $60 per hour, and he plans on changing it from $60 per hour plus a $15 flat rate. He's planning on changing that to $65 an hour plus a $15 flat rate. So the question is asking, what will be the effect of his change, or what is going to take place if he changes the two equations? Well, we know that the flat rate is not changing. So let's go through our answer choices and let's check this out here. Let's look at letter A. Right, we can see that it's changing per hour. That's really simple. It's going from 60 to 65, so we don't even need to go through our answer choices. So the amount he is charging is going to increase by $5 an hour. Which of the following is the correct solution for the inequality? We're going to solve this. So positive 18 on the left becomes minus 18 on the right. Negative 9x is greater than 54 minus 18. 36. And remember the previous problem we did, when you divide by a negative, what happens to the sign? And in this case, instead of saying x is greater than at the very end, it's actually going to be less than, x is less than. 36 divided by 9, negative 9, excuse me, is negative 4. X is less than negative 4. Michael's planning to build a shed in his yard. He drew a side view of the shed on the coordinate grid. The question's asking, what's the slope? Slope is rise over run. You either go up and to the right or you go down and to the right. Well, since the line is positive, we're going to go up and to the right. So our first step is to figure out how much do we go up. So take 2 points. And before we do this, I'm going to look and see what we're counting by. We're counting by ones on the x-axis and on the y-axis. They like to trick us sometimes. So how do we get to those 2 points? The first thing we do is we're going to rise up 1. So you have to rise up. So our top number is 1, and we're going to run to the right twice. Our bottom number is 2. So what is our slope? It's a half. You go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. All right, Johnny joined an online video game rental site that charges $3.50 for 4 movies. The number of video games rented varies directly with the monthly bill. If Johnny's first bill was $12.25, how many video games did he rent? Okay, well, one movie, let's figure out how much one movie is. One movie costs 87.5 cents, or 0.875. And if we're talking about varies directly, we are talking about a proportional relationship. So if one movie costs 87.5 cents, how many movies does he rent for $12.25? Well, I could take the price per movie, 87.5 cents, and multiply it times the answer choices, which I'm going to do here, and you'll see that I get $12.25. So if I take A, 14, times the price for one movie, I get the total bill. So my answer is A. Now, if you didn't do it that way, you could also know, like we talked about, that varies directly means it's proportional. So if you go back in time to when you learned proportions, this over that and this over that, so we're talking about it's $3.50 for 4 movies. So in this case, $12.25 would be for how many movies? And we're simply going to use the little old cross multiply and divide method you learned back in grade school. 12.25 times 4 gives me 49, and we're going to divide that by 350. And guess what? You get 14 movies. Don't forget to study, people. Solve for T. Okay? Instead of using traditional equations that have all numbers, now we're starting to transition to letters. So negative x on the left is going to be positive x on the right. We're just moving everything away from t. And our last step, as always, that you guys are used to seeing is just divide by 5. And so now we have t by itself. T equals y over x plus 5. Now that can also be written as t equals x plus y over 5. And And we can also split that up if we wanted to. We could say t equals x divided by 5 plus y divided by 5. So either of those three answers could work. Chances are they're going to use the one in pink, the t equals x plus y divided by 5. All right, and here is our other question, number 19. Given the equation y equals negative 2x minus 3, which of the below describes the graph whose slope is twice? So we're going to multiply that slope times 2. Negative 2 times 2, that's going to give me a new slope of negative 4. And we're going to look at the y-intercept. Is 3 more? 3 more means to add 3 to that. So if we're at negative 3 and we add 3, now we're at 0 on the y-intercept. So let's write an equation that represents our new line, negative 4x plus 0, and check our answers. Look at letter A. The new line will have a slope of negative 4 and a y-intercept of 0. Guess what? That's what we had. So A is our answer. Yeah, buddy. Here we go, number 20. This is our last one. What makes two lines parallel? What makes two lines parallel? It's not the fact that they don't cross, it's the fact that they have the same slope. The reason why they don't cross is because they have the same slope. They have the same m value, same slope. Well, I'm so proud of you guys. The first semester is over here at 2015. Can't wait to see how you guys do next semester. Study, people, study. Yeah, buddy.